The docking clamps released with a soft hiss, and Leo pressed his face against the window to see the enormous space station spreading out before him like a metal flower in the darkness. His guardian, Robert, was busy talking to the station officials through the communication panel, but Leo was more interested in making sure Bandit was comfortable in his travel carrier. "We're almost there." "Buddy?" Leo whispered, poking his fingers through the reinforced mesh. A low grunt answered him, followed by the sound of claws scraping against metal. The carrier had already been replaced twice during their journey from Earth. Bandit didn't like being confined. Robert turned around and gave Leo a tired smile. "Remember what we talked about? Not everyone out here knows about Earth animals. Bandit might seem a little strange to them." Leo nodded, but he didn't really understand why anyone would be scared of Bandit. Sure, his honey badger was tough and didn't back down from anything, but that just made him the best pet ever. The other kids back at the colony station had been jealous when Leo's family got approved for the cultural exchange program. None of them got to bring their pets to an actual alien station. The airlock opened and Leo clipped the special harness onto Bandit before letting him out of the carrier. The harness was made from some kind of super strong cable that the station had insisted on. It seemed like overkill to Leo, but adults always worried about the strangest things. Bandit stretched, his stocky body rippling with muscle under his thick fur. He sniffed the air, his small eyes scanning the new environment with intense focus. Leo held the lead firmly and followed Robert into the docking bay. The change was immediate and confusing. A tall, bird-like alien had been walking toward them, probably to welcome them. But the moment Bandit came into view, the creature made a high-pitched sound and scrambled backwards so fast it nearly fell over its own feet. Its feathers puffed out until it looked twice its normal size. "Was it something I said?" Leo asked, looking up at Robert. Before Robert could answer, more aliens appeared from various doorways and corridors, drawn by curiosity about the arriving humans. But as soon as they spotted Bandit, the reactions were all the same. Some froze in place, others backed away quickly. A few made sounds that Leo guessed were probably screaming in their languages. "Why is everyone acting so weird?" Leo asked, genuinely puzzled. He looked down at Bandit, who was just standing there, nose twitching as he took in all the new smells. "You're not doing anything scary, are you, boy?" Bandit looked up at him and made a huffing sound that Leo had learned meant he was content. To show his appreciation, Leo reached down and scratched behind Bandit's ears, rubbing the fur roughly the way his honey badger liked it. Bandit leaned into the touch, closing his eyes in pleasure. A collective gasp echoed through the docking bay. Leo glanced around, bewildered. The aliens were staring at him like he'd just done something impossible. One of them, a being that looked like it was made of purple jelly, was actually shaking. "The hatchling touches the predator with his bare appendages," someone whispered in heavily accented Galactic Common, "and it doesn't attack." "Maybe they're both predators," another voice suggested nervously. Robert was trying to speak with an official who seemed to be in charge, but the official kept his distance, eyeing Bandit like the honey badger might explode at any moment. Leo decided to help by being friendly. He walked forward and the crowd immediately parted, creating a wide circle around him and Bandit. "Hi," Leo said cheerfully to a small, furry alien that looked kind of like a rabbit. "I'm Leo, and this is Bandit. We just got here from Earth." The rabbit creature fainted. "Oh no." Leo rushed forward to help, but his movement caused a chain reaction. Aliens scattered in every direction, some climbing walls, others diving through doorways. Within seconds, the busy docking bay had become nearly empty. Leo stood there, completely confused, with Bandit sitting calmly beside him. "I don't get it." "We're being nice." Robert came over and put a hand on Leo's shoulder. He looked stressed. "Son, I think we need to understand that Earth animals are very different from what these people are used to. Bandit is a predator from a death world. They've probably never seen anything like him." "But he's friendly," Leo protested. "Well, mostly friendly. He only bites things that bother him." "That's what worries them," Robert said quietly. A new alien approached, this one wearing some kind of uniform with symbols that probably meant security. It was reptilian in appearance with scales that shimmered green and gold. Unlike the others, this one didn't run, though Leo noticed it kept its hand near something on its belt that looked like a weapon. "I am Captain Wren," the alien said, its voice deep and careful. "I am Chief of Security for Station Haven 7. I must ask about your companion creature." "Is it under your control?" "Bandit?" Leo smiled. Yeah, he's my best friend. We go everywhere together. And can it be contained? For the safety of the station population? Leo frowned. He's not dangerous. I mean, not to people who don't mess with him. Back home, he scared off a wild dog that got into our camp, and once he fought a snake. But that's just what honey badgers do. They're really brave. Captain Wren's eyes widened slightly. It fights reptiles? Well, yeah. Honey badgers aren't afraid of anything. That's why they're so cool. The security chief made a note on a digital pad. I see. And you, young human, you are not afraid of this creature? Afraid of Bandit? Leo laughed and bent down to hug his honey badger. Bandit tolerated the affection, even licking Leo's cheek with his rough tongue. He's my buddy. Why would I be afraid? Captain Wren took a step back. Because it is a predator from a Class 12 death world. Because it has claws and teeth designed for combat. Because every instinct in my body tells me that creature is dangerous. Leo stood up, feeling defensive now. Bandit isn't mean. He's just protective. And yeah, Earth is tough, but that's normal to us. At that moment, Bandit decided to mark his territory. He casually walked over to a support pillar and did what any Earth animal would do in a new place. To Leo, it was just normal animal behavior. To the watching aliens, it was apparently an act of dominance and territorial claiming that caused the last few stragglers to flee. Alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed, and a mechanical voice spoke in multiple languages. Leo caught the Galactic Common Translation. Alert. Uncontained predator detected. All personnel evacuate Docking Bay 7. Security teams respond. What's happening? Leo shouted over the noise. Robert looked at the security chief, who was speaking rapidly into a communication device. I think Bandit just triggered their emergency protocols. Leo looked down at his honey badger, who was now sniffing around the base of a cargo container, completely unconcerned with the chaos around them. But he's on a leash. He's not uncontained. Captain Wren finished his communication and looked at them gravely. Young human, I do not think you understand. Your creature is unlike anything most species in this galaxy have encountered. Its behavior patterns suggest extreme aggression and fearlessness. Such traits are universally recognized as signs of an apex predator. Apex predator? Leo tested the words. I guess that's kind of accurate. Honey badgers are pretty tough for their size. How large do they grow? Captain Wren asked. Oh, Bandit's about full size. Maybe 25 pounds. The security chief's scales seemed to pale slightly. And this is considered a small predator on your world? Leo shrugged. I mean, yeah. There are way bigger ones. Bears, big cats, crocodiles, sharks in the oceans. Even some of the birds back home are pretty scary. Captain Wren made more notes, his hand slightly unsteady. I need to report this to the station administrator. Please wait here. And please keep that creature restrained. As the security chief walked away quickly, Leo sat down next to Bandit and stroked his coarse fur. I don't think they like you very much, buddy. But don't worry. Once they get to know you, they'll see you're not scary at all. Bandit made a low growling sound and showed his teeth, not in aggression, but in what Leo recognized as contentment. To Leo, it was his pet being happy. To the security cameras recording everything, it looked like a creature from their worst nightmares preparing to strike. Somewhere in the station's command center, officials were already composing urgent messages to the Galactic Council about the humans and their war beast. Unaware that they were looking at a 9-year-old boy and his beloved pet, neither of whom had any idea that their simple walk through a docking bay had just become the most terrifying event in the station's history. Leo pulled out a treat from his pocket and gave it to Bandit. Good boy, he said softly, and the galaxy watched in horror as the small human fed raw meat to the monster, and the monster gently took it from his hand. 3 armed security personnel in full combat armor surrounded the cafeteria entrance, their weapons trained on something inside. Leo pushed through the crowd of onlookers, his heart pounding with worry. Bandit had slipped his harness 20 minutes ago, while Leo was distracted by a friendly maintenance worker trying to explain how the station's artificial gravity worked. Move aside, everyone please, Robert was saying, trying to clear a path. But the gathered aliens were too fixated on the drama unfolding to pay attention. Leo squeezed between 2 tall aliens and finally saw what was happening. Bandit sat in the middle of the cafeteria floor, surrounded by overturned chairs and tables. Several food dispensers had been knocked over, and a small cleaning robot lay on its side, wheels spinning uselessly. His honey badger looked absolutely unbothered by the weapons pointed at him, more interested in chewing on something he'd found under one of the tables. "Bandit!" Leo called out. The honey badger's head snapped up. His ears perked forward, and he made an excited chittering sound that Leo knew meant he was happy to hear his human's voice. "Stay right there. Young human," one of the security officers warned, her voice muffled by her helmet. "The predator is in an aggressive state." "He's not aggressive," Leo said, already walking past them. "He's just exploring. And he probably got hungry." "Do not approach the creature," another officer commanded, moving to block Leo's path. Leo ducked under the alien's arm and ran toward Bandit. The gathered crowd gasped. Someone screamed. The security team shouted conflicting orders, but Leo reached his honey badger without any problem, dropping to his knees and hugging Bandit around his thick neck. "Bad boy," Leo scolded gently. "You can't just run off like that. You scared everyone." Bandit licked Leo's face, his breath smelling like whatever he'd been eating. Leo laughed and pushed him away playfully. "Gross, buddy. What did you find?" He looked around and spotted the source of the chaos. Bandit had discovered the waste disposal area, where the cafeteria discarded food scraps. To a honey badger from Earth, it must have seemed like a treasure trove. "Oh boy, you made a mess, didn't you?" The security team slowly lowered their weapons, but they didn't approach. One of them was speaking rapidly into a communication device. "Yes, confirmed. The small human has made physical contact with the predator. No, it hasn't attacked. It appears to be submitting to the hatchling. I don't understand it either." Leo stood up, holding Bandit in his arms. The honey badger was heavy and squirmed a bit, but Leo had carried him plenty of times before. "See, he's friendly. You guys didn't need all these weapons." A new alien pushed through the crowd. This one looked like a large bird, with blue and silver feathers and enormous eyes that blinked sideways. It wore an official-looking sash covered in symbols Leo couldn't read. "I am Ambassador Trill," the bird alien said, its voice thin and shaky. "I am assigned to handle diplomatic relations with your species. Young human, I must insist that you restrain your companion immediately." "He's restrained now," Leo said, adjusting his grip on Bandit. "I'm holding him, see?" Ambassador Trill's feathers ruffled. "I mean in a proper containment unit. The station population is terrified. We have received over 3,000 emergency calls in the last hour, all regarding the loose predator." "But he wasn't really loose," Leo protested. "He was just in here eating, and he didn't hurt anybody." "It destroyed a maintenance robot," one of the security officers pointed out. Leo looked at the toppled robot. Bandit probably thought it was playing. "He does that with vacuum cleaners back home. They make weird noises and he thinks they're challenging him." "Challenging?" Ambassador Trill repeated faintly. "Your creature views mechanical devices as territorial rivals?" "I guess. I don't know. He's a honey badger. They don't really back down from anything." The ambassador swayed slightly and grabbed onto a nearby chair for support. "Nothing? It backs down from nothing?" "Well, one time he ran away from a helicopter because the sound was really loud and surprised him. But then he came back and tried to fight it, so I guess he didn't really back down." Ambassador Trill made a sound like air being let out of a balloon and sat down heavily. "It attempted to fight an aircraft. It was on the ground," Leo clarified, as if that made it better. "And I stopped him before he got close. The pilots thought it was funny. The gathered aliens did not think it was funny. Several were recording everything on their devices." Leo noticed their expressions ranged from terrified to fascinated, with none of them looking amused. A new figure appeared, and Leo recognized Captain Wren from earlier. The security chief moved with careful, measured steps, keeping his eyes on Bandit the entire time. "The situation is contained," Wren asked his team. "The human child retrieved the creature, sir. We did not have to use force." Wren nodded slowly. "Good. Harming either of them could create a diplomatic incident we cannot afford." He focused on Leo. "Young one, I need to understand your relationship with this animal." "You command it?" "I don't command him," Leo said, scratching behind Bandit's ears. "We're friends. He listens to me because he trusts me. And if he did not trust you?" Leo thought about that. "Then he probably wouldn't listen. Honey badgers are pretty independent. But we've been together since he was little, so we understand each other." Bandit chose that moment to growl at one of the security officers who had moved slightly closer. The officer jumped back so fast he collided with his colleague. "Bandit, no," Leo said firmly. "They're friends." The honey badger stopped growling but continued watching the security team with suspicious eyes. "Remarkable," someone said from the crowd. A smaller alien stepped forward, this one looking almost human except for her pale purple skin and the third eye in the center of her forehead. She wore a scientist's coat and carried a digital tablet that she was frantically typing on. "I am Dr. Yenna," she said, her voice filled with excitement rather than fear. "I am a xenobiologist. I have been studying the data about Earth species since your arrival was announced. May I ask you questions?" "Sure," Leo said, happy to finally meet someone who seemed interested rather than scared. "Your companion is called a honey badger. According to the limited data we have, they are found on the African and Asian continents of your world. Is this correct?" "Yeah, Bandit's family originally came from Africa, I think. But he was born at a wildlife center in the American sector." Dr. Yenna's three eyes went wide. "You have centers dedicated to breeding predators." "Well, not just predators. All kinds of animals, and some of them are endangered, so we help them." "Endangered by what?" "By us, mostly," Leo admitted. "Humans kind of took over a lot of the planet, so we're trying to make up for it by protecting the animals that are left." Dr. Yenna made rapid notes. "So humans achieved dominance over their entire world, including species like this one?" She gestured at Bandit. I guess. We're pretty much everywhere on Earth now." "And this creature," Dr. Yenna continued, stepping closer despite the nervous shuffling of the security team. "What is its primary diet?" "Honey badgers eat lots of things. Insects, small animals, honey when they can get it. Bandit really likes snake." Several aliens in the crowd made distressed sounds. "He consumes other predators?" Dr. Yenna asked. "Snakes aren't really predators like Bandit is. Some of them are dangerous, but honey badgers have this really cool resistance to venom, so snake bites don't hurt them much." "Resistance to venom," Dr. Yenna repeated, typing faster. "What classification of toxins?" Leo shrugged. "I'm not sure. I know he can handle cobra venom because we watched a documentary about it, and scorpion stings don't bother him either." Ambassador Trill made a weak sound from his chair. "Scorpions? Of course your world has scorpions." "Oh yeah," Leo said cheerfully. "Some of them are huge, but they're not as scary as the spiders." "Spiders," Captain Wren repeated, his expression unreadable. "The really big ones can eat birds," Leo continued, not noticing how the crowd was reacting. "But most of them are small, and actually helpful because they eat the bugs we don't like." Dr. Yenna had stopped typing and was just staring at Leo. "Your world has predatory arachnids large enough to consume avian species, and humans consider the smaller versions helpful." "Well, yeah, they keep the mosquitoes down." "What are mosquitoes?" "Little flying insects that bite you and suck your blood. They're really annoying, and some of them carry diseases." The crowd had gone completely silent. Even the security team looked disturbed. "Let me understand this," Captain Wren said slowly. "Your world has venomous creatures, blood-drinking parasites, and predators that attack without fear. And humans live among all of this normally?" When you put it that way, it sounds bad," Leo said. "But it's just home. You get used to it." Ambassador Trill stood up shakily. "I need to file a report with the Galactic Council. This is far beyond what we were prepared for." "Did I say something wrong?" Leo asked, looking worried. Dr. Yenna shook her head, a strange smile on her face. "No, young human. You simply told the truth. And the truth about Earth is more terrifying than we imagined." Bandit yawned, showing all his teeth, and several people in the crowd actually ran away. Leo sighed. "This is going to be harder than I thought." Robert finally reached Leo and put a hand on his shoulder. "Come on, son. Let's get you and Bandit to our quarters. I think everyone needs a break." As they left the cafeteria, Leo heard the whispers following them. Words like Death World or Apex Predator and Dangerous Hatchling floated through the air. He held Bandit closer and wondered why making friends in space was so much harder than he'd expected. Behind them, Dr. Yenna was already composing her preliminary report, her hands trembling slightly as she typed a single conclusion. "If this child and his companion represent normal Earth conditions, humanity may be the most formidable species we have ever encountered." Leo was trying to teach Bandit to fetch a ball in their assigned quarters when the emergency sirens started. The sound was different from the alarms that had gone off when Bandit escaped, deeper and more urgent. Through their window, Leo could see red warning lights flashing in the corridor outside. Robert quickly accessed the station's information network on his tablet. His face grew serious as he read. There's been a hull breach in the lower maintenance levels. Something called the Vorash have gotten inside. What are Vorash? Leo asked, holding Bandit back from the door where he was trying to investigate the noise. Scavenger species, apparently. The station has been trying to eliminate them for months, but they keep coming back. This is the worst infestation yet according to this report. Robert kept reading, his frown deepening. They're evacuating all the lower sections. These creatures are dangerous enough that security won't even go down there without full protective gear. A chime sounded at their door. When Robert opened it, Ambassador Trill stood there with 2 security escorts. The bird alien looked even more stressed than usual, his feathers sticking out at odd angles. Please remain in your quarters, Trill said quickly. The Vorash situation is being handled, but we cannot guarantee safety in the corridors. Food and water will be delivered to you. How long will we be stuck here? Leo asked. Until the infestation is cleared. Typically this takes several days. Trill paused. We have already lost contact with 3 maintenance workers who were trapped in the lower levels when the breach occurred. Rescue operations will begin once we can secure a safe path, but the Vorash are extremely aggressive when cornered. Leo felt a chill. 3 people are trapped down there? They are in sealed maintenance rooms. We hope they will be safe until we can reach them. But Trill didn't sound convinced. After the ambassador left, Leo couldn't stop thinking about the trapped workers. He watched through their window as armed security teams gathered at the access points to the lower levels, clearly preparing for something difficult and dangerous. I want to help, Leo said quietly. Robert looked at him with concern. Son, these creatures have the entire station security on alert. This isn't something we can get involved in. But people are trapped, and everyone's too scared to go get them. They're not scared. They're being cautious. There's a difference. Leo looked down at Bandit, who was staring at the door, body tense. His honey badger could sense something was wrong. Bandit wouldn't be scared of these Vorash things. That's exactly what worries me, Robert muttered. 2 hours passed. The sirens continued. Through the station's information network, Leo learned that the Vorash had spread throughout the entire lower level. Security teams had tried twice to push through but had been forced to retreat. The creatures were described as insect-like, the size of large dogs, with venomous stingers and aggressive pack behavior. To Leo, they sounded like the hornets his uncle had to deal with back on Earth. Just bigger. I'm going to help, Leo announced. Standing up, absolutely not, Robert said firmly. But Dad, I can do this. Bandit can do this. You've seen how brave he is. Brave and reckless are not the same thing, Leo. They argued for another 20 minutes before Leo made a decision. He waited until Robert was in the bathroom, then quietly grabbed Bandit's harness, clipped it on, and slipped out of their quarters. The corridors were nearly empty, most people hiding in their rooms as ordered. Leo knew where the access points to the lower levels were because he'd explored the station map on his tablet during their first day. He headed for the nearest one, Bandit trotting beside him. Sensing adventure, he found a maintenance hatch that security hadn't locked yet, probably because they didn't think anyone would be foolish enough to use it. The ladder led down into darkness, lit only by emergency lights that cast everything in red. Okay, buddy, Leo whispered to Bandit. This might be dangerous, but we're going to help those trapped people, right? Bandit made a low huffing sound that Leo chose to interpret as agreement. Leo climbed down carefully, holding Bandit's harness tight. The lower level was darker than he expected and colder. The air smelled strange, like metal and something organic he couldn't identify. He pulled out a small flashlight from his pocket and turned it on. The beam caught movement immediately. A Vorash scuttled across the far wall. It was exactly as described, roughly the size of a big dog but built like a massive beetle with long jointed legs and a segmented body covered in dark glossy plates. Its head had multiple eyes that reflected the light, and Leo could see the stinger curved over its back like a scorpion's tail. Bandit saw it too. Every muscle in his body tensed and a low growl started in his throat. Easy, Leo said, though his heart was pounding. Let's just find the people first. But the Vorash had noticed them. It turned fully toward them, mandibles clicking together in what was probably a threat display. Then it charged. Leo barely had time to process what was happening before Bandit lunged forward, pulling the harness right out of Leo's surprised grip. The honey badger met the Vorash head-on, and the impact sent both creatures tumbling across the floor. The Vorash was bigger, but Bandit was faster, and absolutely fearless. He dodged the stinger strike and clamped his jaws onto one of the creature's legs, his teeth finding the joint where the armor was weakest. The Vorash made a high-pitched shrieking sound and tried to shake him off, but honey badgers didn't let go. More movement in the darkness. Leo's flashlight found 2 more Vorash emerging from a damaged wall panel, then 3 more from behind a stack of storage containers. They'd stumbled into a whole nest. "Bandit, we've got company," Leo called out. His honey badger released the first Vorash, which scrambled away with one leg barely working. Bandit didn't chase it. Instead, he positioned himself between Leo and the approaching creatures, his stocky body radiating aggression. The Vorash circled them, and Leo remembered what the reports had said about pack behavior. These things coordinated their attacks. He grabbed a metal pipe that was lying nearby, part of the damaged infrastructure, and held it like a baseball bat. The Vorash attacked together, 3 of them rushing from different angles. Bandit caught the first one, rolling with it and biting at its underside where the armor was thinnest. The second one went for Leo, who swung his pipe and actually connected, knocking the creature sideways. The third tried to use its stinger on Bandit, but the honey badger twisted away and the stinger struck the floor instead. Leo had seen documentaries about honey badgers fighting. He'd watched videos of them taking on lions, hyenas, and snakes, but seeing Bandit actually in combat was different. His pet moved with pure instinct, using every advantage his body provided. Thick skin absorbed impacts that would have seriously injured other animals. His powerful jaws crushed through the Vorash's armor. His claws raked across their eyes and joints, and most importantly, Bandit didn't stop. Even when a stinger finally connected, injecting venom directly into his shoulder, Bandit just shook his head and kept fighting. The venom that would have paralyzed most species barely slowed him down. Leo helped where he could, using his pipe to distract the Vorash when they tried to surround Bandit, creating openings for his honey badger to attack. They worked together instinctively, the way they had during their camping trips when they'd scared off wild animals. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, the Vorash retreated. Several were injured, and they seemed to realize these strange intruders were more dangerous than they'd expected. Leo was breathing hard, and Bandit had several scratches across his face and body. But they were both okay. The venom sting site on Bandit's shoulder was slightly swollen, but he was moving normally. "Good boy," Leo said, his voice shaking slightly now that the danger had passed. "Best boy. Let's find those people." They moved deeper into the lower level, and the Vorash didn't bother them again. Word must have spread somehow among the creatures that this area was now too dangerous. They found the maintenance workers in a sealed room, exactly where the report said they'd be. Leo knocked on the door. "Hello?" "The Vorash are gone." "Well, not gone, but they won't bother you now." The door cracked open and a purple-skinned alien peered out. "Who are you?" "I'm Leo, that's Bandit." "We're from Earth." The alien's 3 eyes went wide. "The human child." "And the predator?" The door opened fully, revealing 3 maintenance workers who looked terrified but hopeful. "You cleared the Vorash?" "Well, we fought some of them and the rest ran away. The path back to the upper levels should be safe now." One of the workers, a being made of what looked like living crystal, spoke up. "The security teams tried twice and could not get through. How did a hatchling and 1 small creature succeed?" Leo shrugged. "Bandit's really good at fighting bugs. And they're kind of like the hornets back home, just bigger." "Bigger hornets," the crystal alien repeated faintly. Leo led them back through the lower level, using his flashlight to show the way. Bandit walked point, growling whenever he sensed Vorash nearby, but none of them approached. The maintenance workers followed in stunned silence. When they reached the access ladder and climbed back to the main level, they were immediately surrounded by security teams who had been monitoring the situation through the few working cameras in the lower levels. Captain Wren was there, his expression unreadable. "You were ordered to stay in your quarters." "I know," Leo said, "but people needed help." "You entered an active danger zone with only your companion animal." "Bandit's not just an animal. He's my partner." The security chief looked at Bandit, who was sitting calmly now, occasionally licking his wounds. "Your partner eliminated or drove off an entire Vorash nest that my trained security teams could not handle. Well, yeah, honey badgers are really tough. One of the rescued workers stepped forward. The human child saved our lives. Without him and his creature, we would have been trapped for days, possibly weeks. We owe him a great debt. Murmurs spread through the gathered crowd. Someone had been recording the rescue, and Leo could see his and Bandit's image being shared on tablets and communication devices throughout the station. Dr. Yenna pushed through the crowd, her tablet out as always. May I examine your companion? The Vorash venom is extremely potent, and yet he shows minimal effects. Leo nodded, and Dr. Yenna carefully approached Bandit. The honey badger allowed her to scan the sting site, though he watched her carefully. Extraordinary, Dr. Yenna breathed. The venom is present in his system, but his body is processing it rapidly. Most species would be paralyzed or dead by now. Honey badgers have special resistance to venom, Leo explained. It's one of their things. One of their things, Dr. Yenna repeated, making more notes. Along with fearlessness, powerful jaws, strong claws, thick protective skin, and apparently exceptional combat instincts. Robert finally arrived, looking both relieved and angry. Leo, we need to talk about following orders. I know, Dad, I'm sorry. But I couldn't just leave those people trapped. Ambassador Trill was there too, looking like he might faint again. The Galactic Council will need to be informed of this incident. A human juvenile and his companion have accomplished what our security forces could not. Maybe that's because we're too scared, Captain Wren said quietly. We saw danger and retreated. The humans saw danger and advanced. He looked at Leo with what might have been respect. Your species is very different from ours. Leo didn't know what to say to that, so he just picked up Bandit and held him close. Can someone look at his scratches? He got hurt helping. Dr. Yenna immediately called for medical supplies. And for the first time since arriving at the station, Leo saw aliens treating Bandit like what he was, a brave companion who deserved care, not a monster to be feared. Later that night, after Bandit's wounds had been treated and they were finally back in their quarters, Leo lay in bed thinking about what had happened. His tablet buzzed with messages from all over the station, people thanking him and asking about Earth and honey badgers and humans. One message was different from the others. It was from a young alien named Pip, someone Leo's age, who said that Leo was the bravest person they'd ever heard of and wanted to be friends. Leo smiled and sent back a reply saying he'd like that very much. Outside their quarters, security had posted guards, not to keep them in, but to protect them from the crowds of curious aliens who wanted to meet the human child and his fearless honey badger. The station's perception of them was beginning to shift, and Leo hoped that maybe, just maybe, this was the start of real friendship. The holographic projector filled one entire wall of the meeting room, displaying 12 council members from different species across the galaxy. Leo sat in a chair that was too big for him, his feet dangling above the floor. Bandit lay curled in his lap, occasionally making soft grunting sounds as he slept. Robert stood behind Leo, one hand on his son's shoulder. A being that looked like a floating jellyfish with dozens of tentacles spoke first. We are Counselor Ven of the Hive Collective, Human Child Leo. We have reviewed the incident reports from Station Haven 7. We must ask direct questions about your species and your home world. Okay, Leo said, trying not to be nervous. I'll answer what I can. You are 9 standard cycles old, correct? 9 years, yeah. And this places you in the juvenile stage of human development? I'm a kid, if that's what you mean. Another council member spoke up, this one resembling a tree with a face carved into its trunk. Yet despite being a juvenile, you entered a combat situation that trained adults avoided. Is this normal human behavior? Leo thought about that. I mean, I wanted to help people who were trapped. Isn't that just the right thing to do? Most species prioritize self-preservation over assisting non-family members, the tree being explained. Especially juveniles who lack fully developed survival instincts. I knew it was dangerous, Leo admitted. But Bandit was with me and he's really good at handling threats. So I figured we'd be okay. Bandit chose that moment to wake up and yawn, showing all his teeth. Half the council members visibly flinched. One of them, a species Leo hadn't seen before with crystalline features, actually flickered out for a second as if the hologram had glitched, though Leo suspected it was deliberate. About your companion, Counselor Ven continued carefully. Records indicate it was injected with Vorash venom multiple times. This toxin is fatal to 73% of known species within minutes. Yet your creature showed minimal effects. Honey badgers have resistance to lots of venoms, Leo explained. It's just how they evolved. Earth has a lot of venomous animals, so some species developed defenses against it. A council member that looked like a large insect with multiple arms leaned forward. How many venomous species exist on Earth? I'm not exactly sure. Thousands, probably. There are venomous snakes, spiders, scorpions, jellyfish, some lizards, certain fish, a few mammals, lots of insects. Leo counted on his fingers. Oh, and some plants are poisonous too, which is kind of similar. The council chamber fell silent for a long moment. Thousands, Counselor Venn repeated. And humans coexist with all of these threats? Well, we're careful, and most of them won't bother you if you don't bother them. The dangerous ones we usually avoid or relocate if they're too close to where people live. Dr. Yenna, who was attending the meeting as an expert witness, spoke up. Council members, I have been studying Earth biology since these humans arrived. What young Leo describes as normal is, by galactic standards, an environment of constant deadly pressure. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, one of the harshest inhabited planets we've encountered. I don't think Earth is that harsh, Leo said. I mean, yeah, there are dangerous things, but there's also really beautiful places. Mountains and oceans and forests. My favorite place is this beach near where we used to live, where you can see dolphins jumping in the waves. What are dolphins? Someone asked. They're really smart marine mammals. They're friendly to humans mostly. Mostly. The insect being questioned. Sometimes they get annoyed if you bother them too much. But they're still cool. They can swim really fast and use echolocation to find fish. Dr. Yenna pulled up some data on her tablet. Dolphins are apex predators in Earth's oceans, possessing enhanced intelligence and social hunting strategies. Young Leo here describes them as friendly. They are friendly, Leo insisted. We used to see them all the time. Another council member, one that appeared to be made of living liquid contained in a transparent suit, spoke in a bubbling voice. Human child, please describe other common animals from your world. Leo brightened. He loved talking about animals. Well, there are dogs, they're like Bandit but bigger and they evolved from wolves. Cats are popular pets too, though they're smaller than big cats like lions and tigers. Birds range from tiny hummingbirds to huge eagles and condors. In the oceans there are whales that can grow to almost 30 meters long. On land, elephants are the biggest, and they're really smart and have great memories. He continued, not noticing how the council members were reacting. Bears are cool, they can be really big and strong. Some of them eat mostly plants, but others eat fish and meat. Crocodiles live in water and on land, and they've been around for millions of years, basically unchanged because they're such good survivors. Sharks are amazing too. Some of them are huge and have been around even longer than crocodiles. And humans live near all of these creatures? Counselor Venn asked weakly. Not all of them at the same time, usually. Different animals live in different places. But yeah, we're pretty much everywhere on Earth, so we encounter lots of different species. And your companion, this honey badger, the tree being said. Where does it rank among Earth's predators? Oh, Bandit's not even close to the biggest predators. He's tough for his size, but like I said, there are bears and big cats and crocodiles that are way more dangerous. Way more dangerous, someone repeated in disbelief. Yeah, honey badgers are aggressive and fearless, but they're small. A lion or tiger would be way scarier if you met one in the wild. Yet humans keep these lions and tigers in observation facilities where juveniles visit them for recreation. Dr. Yenna added, reading from her notes. Zoos are educational, Leo said. You learn about conservation and why we need to protect endangered species. You protect the apex predators that threaten you? The insect being asked, confused. Well, we're the ones who made them endangered in the first place by taking over their habitats. So yeah, we try to fix that. Counselor Venn seemed to be processing this. Let me understand. Humans achieved dominance over a Class 12 death world filled with thousands of threats, then chose to preserve those threats rather than eliminate them. When you say it like that, it sounds weird, Leo said. But the animals aren't threats if we respect their space. Most human deaths from wildlife happen because people do something dumb, like getting too close or feeding them when they shouldn't. Most deaths, the liquid being bubbled, implying there are regular deaths from wildlife encounters. I mean, it happens sometimes. Earth has almost 10 billion people, so statistically some accidents are going to occur. But it's pretty rare, actually. The council members looked at each other, or at least Leo thought they did. It was hard to tell with some of them. Ambassador Trill, who had been quiet until now, spoke nervously. Council members, I must inform you that the situation is more complex than we initially understood. The humans appear to have no awareness that they are unusual. From their perspective, they are simply a normal species from a normal world. Nothing about Earth is normal, the Crystalline Council member stated flatly. The data we've received describes a planet that should not support intelligent life. Yet not only does it support life, that life thrived enough to develop space travel and diplomacy. We're just people, Leo said quietly. I don't understand why everyone thinks we're so scary. Because you walked into a Vorash nest with only a small companion animal and survived, Counselor Venn explained. Because your companion shrugged off venom that kills most species. Because you describe apex predators as friendly. Because your world is more dangerous than most galactic military testing facilities, yet you consider it home. Leo hugged Bandit closer. Is that really so strange? Yes, multiple council members said simultaneously. Robert finally spoke up. Council members, with respect, my son is 9 years old. He's a child who loves animals and wanted to help people in trouble. Earth may be unusual by your standards, but to us it's just where we're from. We didn't choose to evolve on a difficult planet. We simply adapted to survive there, the same way any species adapts to their home. That is what concerns us, the tree being said. Your adaptations have made you formidable. The question is whether humanity can coexist peacefully with the broader galactic community. We want peace, Robert said firmly. That's why we accepted the invitation to this cultural exchange. We want to learn about other species and share what we know. And what you know is frightening, the insect being said bluntly. You know how to survive conditions that would kill most of us. You know how to coexist with predators. You know how to enter danger and emerge victorious. Leo felt a knot in his stomach. Are you going to make us leave? The council members conferred quietly among themselves for several minutes. Finally, Counselor Venn spoke. We are divided on this matter. Some believe humanity should be restricted to Earth for galactic safety. Others argue that your actions on Station Haven 7 demonstrate potential for positive contributions. You saved lives at risk to yourself. This suggests altruism, not aggression. We're not aggressive, Leo said earnestly. We just want to be friends with everyone. Even if we're afraid of you? The liquid being asked. Especially then, Leo replied. Because fear just means we need to understand each other better. Bandit seems scary to you, but he's my best friend. If you got to know him, you'd see he's not a monster. He's just himself. As if understanding that he was being discussed, Bandit looked up at the holographic council members and made a friendly, chittering sound. To Leo, it was adorable. To the council, it sounded like a predator preparing to strike. Perhaps, Counselor Venn said slowly, that is the issue. What you see as friendly, we see as threatening. What you consider normal, we consider impossible. Bridging that gap will be difficult, but not impossible, Leo asked hopefully. Not impossible, the jellyfish being agreed. But it will require patience from both sides. The tree being spoke again. We propose a trial period. Humanity will be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council. During this time, cultural exchange programs will continue, with careful monitoring and support. We will learn about you, and you will learn about us. At the end of one standard cycle, we will reconvene and make a final determination about humanity's status. What if we fail the trial? Robert asked. Then we will respectfully ask that humanity remain isolated until such time as the galaxy is ready to interact with Deathworlders, Counselor Venn said. It is not a punishment, merely a precaution. Leo felt relieved. A trial period was better than being sent home immediately. We'll do our best. I promise we're not as scary as you think. We hope that is true, the crystalline being said. For all our sakes. The meeting continued for another hour, with the council asking detailed questions about Earth, human biology, and social structures. Leo answered what he could, though many questions required Robert's help. By the end, Leo was tired and hungry, and Bandit was getting restless. As the hologram shut down, Ambassador Trill approached them. You handled that well, young Leo. Not many beings could face the Galactic Council and remain composed. I was really nervous, Leo admitted. It did not show. That is also a useful trait. They left the meeting room and headed back toward their quarters. Station residents still stared as they passed, but Leo noticed the looks were changing. Less pure fear, more curiosity. Some aliens even waved cautiously, and Leo waved back with a smile. Pip was waiting outside their quarters, the young alien bouncing excitedly when they arrived. "Leo, I watched the council meeting on the station network. You were amazing." "Thanks," Leo said, genuinely happy to see his new friend. "Want to hang out? I can tell you more about Earth if you're interested." "Really? That would be incredible." Robert looked uncertain but nodded. "All right, but Pip's parents need to approve first, and maybe keep Bandit's demonstrations to a minimum." As Pip rushed off to get permission, Leo sat down with Bandit and scratched behind his ears. "Did you hear that, buddy? We get to stay. We just have to show them we're not scary." Bandit made a huffing sound and licked Leo's hand. "Yeah, I know," Leo said with a grin. "That's going to be the hard part." The station's central plaza bustled with activity as various species went about their daily routines. Leo walked through the crowd with Bandit on his reinforced harness, heading toward the observation deck where Pip had promised to meet him. After 3 weeks on Station Haven 7, the panic around him and Bandit had lessened, though people still gave them plenty of space. What Leo didn't know was that the relative peace was about to end in the worst possible way. In the station's lower docking bay, 3 unmarked ships had just attached to an auxiliary port. The crews aboard those ships were members of the Crimson Fang, a notorious pirate group that had terrorized this sector for nearly a decade. They'd been planning this raid for months, waiting until the station's security was focused elsewhere. Leo reached the observation deck and found Pip waiting with 2 other young aliens they'd befriended, a small furry creature named Ori, and a floating jellyfish-like being called Vesh. The 4 of them had formed an unlikely friend group, with Leo teaching them about Earth while they taught him about their worlds. "Leo, look." Pip pointed at the viewing window where a cargo ship was docking. "That's a Kalari freighter. My parent works on one just like it." "It's huge," Leo said, impressed. Bandit sniffed at the window, curious about the ships moving outside. Vesh drifted closer, their transparent bodies shimmering. "My family says Earth ships are different." "Is that true?" "I've only seen pictures," Leo admitted. "But yeah, they're built tougher because Earth has stronger gravity and harsher weather. Our ships need to handle more stress." "Everything from Earth is tougher," Ori said, not unkindly. "You make the rest of us look soft," Leo laughed. "You're not soft. You're just different. Bandit thinks you're all great." As if to prove the point, Bandit walked over to Ori and nudged the small alien with his nose, a gesture of affection. Ori had been terrified of the honey badger at first, but had slowly learned that Bandit was friendly to those Leo cared about. An alarm shattered the peaceful moment. This wasn't the usual warning sound. This was something new, a rapid pulsing that made Leo's chest tighten with instinctive fear. Emergency lights flashed throughout the observation deck, and a voice spoke in multiple languages. "Alert. Security breach. Hostile forces have boarded the station. All civilians proceed immediately to designated safe zones." "This is not a drill." The observation deck erupted into chaos. Adults appeared from various directions, calling for their children. Aliens ran in every direction, some toward the exits, others freezing in panic. "We need to move," Leo said, grabbing Pip's arm. "Come on!" They joined the flow of people heading for the safe zones, but the crowd was moving slowly, bottlenecked at the exits. Leo could hear weapon fire in the distance and screaming. His heart pounded, but his mind was clear. He'd been through emergency drills back on Earth, both at school and at home. "Stay calm, follow procedures. Help others if you can." A massive explosion rocked the station and the lights flickered. When they came back on, Leo saw that the crowd had become a mob. People were pushing, shoving, trampling smaller beings in their desperation to escape. "This way," Leo shouted to his friends, pulling them toward a side corridor he'd noticed during his explorations of the station. It was narrower, meant for maintenance access, but it would be safer than the main route. They just entered the corridor when they heard voices speaking in a harsh, guttural language Leo didn't recognize. 3 figures appeared at the far end of the hallway, wearing combat armor and carrying weapons that crackled with energy. Pirates. The lead pirate spotted them and laughed, saying something to his companions. They started walking forward, weapons raised but not firing. They weren't trying to kill, Leo realized with horror. They were trying to capture. "Back the other way," Leo whispered urgently. But when they turned, 2 more pirates had appeared behind them, blocking their escape. They were trapped. Pip was shaking. Ori had curled into a ball. Vesh's normally bright colors had gone dim with fear. Leo felt Bandit tense against his leg, a low growl building in the honey badger's throat. The lead pirate spoke in broken galactic common. "Young ones, come quiet, no hurt, valuable hostages." Leo's mind raced. These pirates wanted to use them as leverage against the station. He thought about all the stories he'd read, all the survival training his father had insisted on back home. Never let yourself be taken to a second location. Fight back if you have to. Protect the vulnerable. He was 9 years old, 4 feet tall, and weighed maybe 70 pounds. The pirates were armed, armored, and had done this before, but he had something they didn't expect. He had Bandit. "Hide," Leo said quietly to his friends, pushing them toward a nearby alcove. "Stay there and don't come out no matter what." "Leo, what are you doing?" Pip whispered fearfully. "Something really stupid," Leo admitted, "but it might work." He unclipped Bandit's harness. The honey badger understood immediately. This was a threat. These beings meant harm to his human and his human's pack. Every instinct Bandit possessed, honed by millions of years of evolution on a death world, activated at once. Leo stepped forward, putting himself between the pirates and his friends. "You're not taking us anywhere." The lead pirate laughed again. "Brave hatchling. Foolish but brave. We'll make good." Bandit attacked. The honey badger moved so fast that even Leo barely tracked it. He shot between the legs of the nearest pirate, claws finding purchase on the armor joints, teeth sinking into the vulnerable spot behind the knee. The pirate screamed and fell. The others tried to aim their weapons, but Bandit was already moving again, a blur of fur and fury. He went for the second pirate's throat, forcing the being to drop their weapon and try to protect their neck. The third pirate managed to fire, but the energy blast went wide, scorching the wall as Bandit dodged. Leo didn't waste the opportunity. He grabbed the fallen weapon from the first pirate. It was heavy and awkward in his hands, but his father had let him handle training weapons before. He knew the basics. Point the dangerous end away from friends. Find the trigger. Don't think too hard. He fired at the wall near the pirate's feet, and the blast startled them enough that Bandit got another opening. The honey badger latched onto the arm of the third pirate, his powerful jaws crushing through the armor plating. The pirates at the other end of the corridor were shouting into communication devices, calling for backup. Leo knew they didn't have much time. "Bandit guard," Leo commanded, pointing at the alcove where his friends were hidden. The honey badger immediately broke off his attack and positioned himself in front of the alcove, body low, teeth bared, making a sound that was somewhere between a growl and a scream. It was the most terrifying sound Leo had ever heard him make, and even Leo felt a chill run down his spine. The pirates reassessed the situation. One of their number was down, clutching a badly mauled leg. Another was trying to stop the bleeding from his arm. The third was backing away slowly, weapon pointed at Bandit but hands shaking. "What is that thing?" one of them demanded in galactic common. "That's my best friend," Leo said, keeping the stolen weapon trained on them even though his arms were getting tired from the weight. "And if you don't leave, he's going to get a lot more aggressive." The lead pirate, the one Bandit had taken down first, struggled to his feet using the wall for support. He stared at Leo with something between disbelief and fear. "You're human." "The Deathworlders." "Yeah," Leo confirmed. "And that's a honey badger from Earth. You've probably heard the stories about us by now." He hadn't actually heard what stories were circulating, but he figured there had to be some after the Vorash incident and the council meeting. The pirate leader made a decision. He barked orders to his crew in their native language, and they began to retreat, dragging their injured companion with them. But before they left, he looked back at Leo. "This isn't over, hatchling. There are more of us, and we will take this station." After they disappeared around the corner, Leo's legs went shaky with adrenaline. He dropped the weapon and called Bandit to him. The honey badger came immediately, and Leo buried his face in the coarse fur, trying not to cry from the fear that was finally catching up to him. "You can come out now," he called to his friends. Pip, Ori, and Vesh emerged slowly from the alcove. They stared at Leo and Bandit with wide eyes. "You saved us," Pip said in awe. "Bandit saved us," Leo corrected. "I just tried to help." "The human child defeated armed pirates," Vesh said, their voice filled with wonder. "With only his companion and a dropped weapon." "We need to get to safety," Leo said, trying to focus on practical matters before his hands started shaking too badly. but the main routes are probably blocked. I know a maintenance shaft that leads to the command center. It'll be cramped, but we should fit. You know the station's maintenance system? Ori asked. I got bored and explored, Leo admitted. Dad says I'm too curious for my own good. He led them through a series of narrow passages that few adults could have navigated. The station's layout made more sense to Leo after studying the maps, and he'd actually crawled through some of these spaces with Bandit during their first week, before Robert found out and told him to stop. They emerged from a wall panel directly into the station's command center, startling the security personnel who were coordinating the response to the pirate attack. Captain Wren spun around, weapon drawn, then lowered it when he saw who had appeared. How did you... Never mind. Are you children injured? We're okay, Leo said. But there are pirates in Section 7. They wanted to take hostages, we know. We've been tracking their movements. Wren's expression darkened. They've taken control of 3 major sections, including the main power distribution center. We're effectively locked in here while they negotiate their demands. What do they want? Credits primarily. And safe passage off the station. They have approximately 40 crew members, all experienced fighters. Wren looked at Bandit, who was sniffing around the command center with interest. Standard protocol would be to negotiate and minimize casualties. But Leo sensed there was more. But this group is known for not keeping their word. Even if we give them what they want, they'll likely harm hostages anyway. We're outgunned and outmaneuvered. An idea formed in Leo's mind. A really crazy idea. What if we didn't negotiate? Attacking them directly would result in massive casualties, Wren said. We don't have the firepower. You don't, Leo agreed. But you have me and Bandit. And they're already scared of us. Robert chose that moment to burst into the command center, having been searching frantically for Leo. Son, thank goodness you're safe. Then he processed what Leo had just said. Wait, what do you mean they're scared of you? We fought some pirates in the corridor, Leo explained. Bandit he did his thing, and I may have implied that all humans are as dangerous as the stories suggest. What stories? Robert asked. Captain Wren pulled up several files on the main display. These stories. The incident with young Leo and his companion has become somewhat legendary across the Galactic Information Network. Most species now believe that humans are natural warriors and that honey badgers are our trained war beasts. The displays showed news articles, videos, and discussion forums all focused on humans and Earth. Some of the headlines made Leo blush. Deathworld Child defeats Vorash Nest. Human-animal bond, the galaxy's new apex predator team. Are humans the soldiers we've been waiting for? Oh, Leo said quietly. That might actually help. Help how? Robert asked warily. Leo looked at Captain Wren. The pirates are expecting you to negotiate, right? They're not expecting an attack. Correct, and they definitely aren't expecting a 9-year-old human and his honey badger to come after them. Absolutely not, Robert said firmly. Leo, this isn't like the Vorash. These are armed, intelligent beings who will shoot to kill. But they're also scared, Leo insisted. You saw how fast those 3 retreated when Bandit attacked. If we can use that fear, make them think the entire human species is coming for them. Psychological warfare, Captain Wren said slowly. Create panic among their ranks. Leo, this is too dangerous, Robert protested. Dad, they have hostages. People are going to get hurt if we don't do something. Leo met his father's eyes. You taught me to help people when I can. This is one of those times. The command center fell silent as everyone processed the insane proposal that a child had just made. Finally, Dr. Yenna spoke up from where she'd been monitoring the situation. The psychological profile I've compiled on the Crimson Fang suggests they operate on intimidation and overwhelming force. They're accustomed to their victims being afraid. If that dynamic is reversed, their tactical cohesion may collapse. You're actually considering this? Robert asked incredulously. I am considering all options, Captain Wren said carefully. And I must admit the element of surprise would be significant. He looked at Leo. But I cannot in good conscience send a child into combat. Then don't send me alone, Leo said. Give me a security team for backup. I'll just be the opening act. Bandit and I create chaos, your team follows up and secures the hostages. Pip stepped forward suddenly. I can help. I know the station better than most because my parent works maintenance. I can show the security team the fastest routes. Absolutely not, Captain Wren started to say, but Ori and Vesh moved forward too. We can help evacuate hostages, Ori said. We're small and fast. While the pirates are distracted, we can guide people to safety. Children should not be involved in combat operations, Wren said firmly. But we're already involved, Pip pointed out. The pirates know about us, and Leo saved our lives. Now we want to help save everyone else. The discussion continued, adults arguing with children, security officers debating tactics, until finally Robert held up his hand for silence. If my son is going to do this, he said, his voice heavy with resignation, then I'm going with him. And we do it smart. No unnecessary risks. First sign of serious danger, we retreat. Agreed? Leo nodded, relief flooding through him. Agreed. Captain Wren began issuing orders, pulling up station schematics and coordinating with his security teams. As the command center transformed into an active war room, Leo sat down with Bandit and tried to calm his racing heart. He'd just volunteered to fight space pirates. His mom back home was going to be so mad when she found out, but somewhere on this station, people were scared and trapped, and Leo knew he could help them. That had to count for something. Bandit nudged his hand, and Leo scratched behind the honey badger's ears. You ready for round 2, buddy? Bandit's answering growl was all the confirmation he needed. The maintenance shaft was dark and cramped, but Leo moved through it with confidence. Behind him came Robert, Captain Wren, and 4 security officers, all of them struggling more than Leo with the tight space. Bandit led the way, his nose guiding them through the maze of passages. The pirates have barricaded themselves in the central hub, Wren whispered, checking his tactical display. 30 hostages, 12 armed hostiles. They're using the hostages as shields. So we can't just rush in, Leo said, thinking it through. We need to split their attention. That's where you come in, Wren agreed reluctantly. If you can draw some of them away from the hostage group, we can extract the civilians. They reached an access panel that opened into a storage area adjacent to the central hub. Through the wall, Leo could hear voices speaking in the pirates' language, harsh and confident. They thought they'd won. Remember the plan, Robert said, gripping Leo's shoulder. You make noise, cause panic, then retreat back here immediately. Don't try to fight them all. I know, Dad. And if anything goes wrong, I run. I know, Robert pulled him into a tight hug. I'm very proud of you, and very terrified. Please be careful. Leo nodded and moved to the access panel with Bandit. He could hear his heart beating in his ears. This was different from the Vorash or the earlier pirate encounter. This was planned, deliberate. He was choosing to walk into danger, but people needed help. That made it worth it. He opened the panel and dropped into the storage room with Bandit landing beside him. Through the doorway, he could see into the central hub where the pirates had gathered. The hostages were clustered in one corner, guarded by 3 pirates while the rest lounged around, weapons at hand but relaxed. They were waiting for the station to meet their demands, confident in their position. Leo took a deep breath and walked into the hub. Hi, he said loudly. I'm looking for my friends. Have you seen them? Every pirate in the room spun toward him. Weapons came up immediately. At least a dozen energy rifles pointed at a 9-year-old boy and his honey badger. The pirate leader, the same one from earlier who was now limping and bandaged, stood up from where he'd been sitting. His expression went from surprise to furious in an instant. The human hatchling, he snarled. You're either very brave or very stupid. My dad says I'm both, Leo replied, trying to keep his voice steady. He also says I should warn people before Bandit gets upset. Your creature is outnumbered 12-1. Surrender now and we won't hurt you. That's a nice offer, Leo said. But I don't think you understand. Bandit isn't the one who's outnumbered. You are. He pointed at the doorway where Robert stepped through, followed immediately by Captain Wren and his security team. But more importantly, Leo pointed at all the other access panels throughout the hub, where hidden security forces were now visible through their transparent positions. See, the thing about humans, Leo continued, is that we're really good at working together, and we really don't like bullies. The pirate leader's eyes darted around, reassessing the situation. He moved toward the hostages, weapon raised. One more step and Bandit didn't wait for him to finish the threat. The honey badger launched himself across the room with a speed that shouldn't have been possible for an animal his size. He hit the pirate leader's gun arm, jaws clamping down on the wrist, and the weapon clattered to the floor. Chaos erupted. The other pirates tried to respond, But security teams were already pouring in from multiple access points. Flashbang grenades filled the room with disorienting light and sound. The pirates, overwhelmed and confused, began firing wildly. Leo dropped and rolled behind a cargo container like his father had taught him, covering his ears against the noise. Through the chaos, he saw Robert and 2 security officers moving toward the hostages, using the distraction to get them to safety. A pirate spotted Leo and aimed his weapon. Time seemed to slow down. Leo saw the pirate's finger tighten on the trigger, saw the barrel of the gun pointing directly at him, and knew he couldn't move fast enough. Then Bandit was there, hitting the pirate from the side. The shot went wide, scorching the wall inches from Leo's head. The honey badger and the pirate went down together, and this time Bandit wasn't playing nice. His claws and teeth found every vulnerable spot, and the pirate was screaming. "Bandit, here!" Leo called, and his honey badger immediately disengaged, returning to Leo's side. They moved together toward where Robert was helping hostages through an emergency exit. The tide of battle turned quickly. The pirates, facing organized resistance instead of helpless victims, began to panic. Several tried to run, but found their escape routes blocked by security forces. Others attempted to surrender, throwing down their weapons and raising their hands. The pirate leader, still struggling with his injured wrist, made one last desperate attempt. He grabbed a small device from his belt and pressed a button. "This station is rigged to explode. We prepared for betrayal. If we don't leave safely, everyone dies." Captain Wren froze, and the security team stopped their advance. Through his tactical display, Wren confirmed the threat. "He's telling the truth. There are explosive devices attached to the station's power core. They'll detonate in 10 minutes. Can you disarm them?" Robert asked. "Not without the deactivation codes, and not in 10 minutes. The pirate leader smiled through his pain. "Now you listen. Release my crew, give us a ship, and I'll give you the codes." Leo felt sick. They'd been so close to stopping the pirates, and now everyone was going to die unless they gave in. Unless... "What if we evacuate the station?" Leo asked. "Impossible," Wren said. "We have over 10,000 residents. Even using every available ship, we couldn't evacuate in 10 minutes. But the power core is in the isolated section, right?" Leo had studied the station layout enough to remember. "What if we just sealed off that section and let it explode? Would the rest of the station survive?" Wren pulled up the schematics. "Theoretically, yes. The power core is designed to contain catastrophic failures, if we could reinforce the containment seals. But we'd need someone to manually override the system from inside the power core chamber. That's a death sentence," the pirate leader laughed. "The radiation alone would kill anyone who tried." Leo looked at Bandit. Honey badgers were resistant to many things that killed other animals. Venom, extreme temperatures, even radiation exposure to some degree because of their incredibly efficient DNA repair mechanisms. It was one of the reasons they were such successful survivors. "How much radiation are we talking about?" Leo asked. "Leo, no," Robert said immediately, understanding where his son's thoughts were going. "Whatever you're thinking, absolutely not." "But Dad, no, we'll find another way." Dr. Yenna pushed through the crowd, her tablet displaying complex calculations. "Captain Wren, human biology is significantly more resistant to radiation than most species due to their evolution under Earth's harsh conditions. Combined with honey badger physiology, it's possible they could survive long enough to trigger the manual override." "Possible isn't good enough," Robert said firmly. "I won't risk my son's life on possible." Leo knelt beside Bandit, running his hands through the coarse fur. His honey badger looked up at him with complete trust. Bandit would follow him anywhere, face any danger, because that's what they did. They protected each other and the people they cared about. "I'm scared," Leo admitted quietly, "but I'm more scared of letting everyone die when I could help." "You're 9 years old," Robert said, his voice breaking. "You shouldn't have to make choices like this. But I'm here, and I can do something about it." Leo stood up, facing his father. "You taught me to help people. You taught me to be brave even when I'm scared. This is me doing what you taught me." The seconds ticked away. The pirate leader watched with growing satisfaction, knowing time was on his side. Finally, Robert closed his eyes and nodded. "You have to wear a radiation suit. And you come back the second you trigger that override. Promise me." "I promise." Captain Wren gave orders rapidly. A child-sized radiation suit was located and brought to Leo. As he climbed into it, Security teams were already herding the defeated pirates into detention cells. The pirate leader screamed threats and curses, but no one was listening anymore. "The suit will protect you from most of the radiation," Dr. Yenna explained, helping Leo with the seals. "But you'll still receive a significant dose. As soon as you trigger the override, the countdown stops and the containment seals engage. Then you run. How long do I have once I'm inside?" 3 minutes, maybe 4. The radiation levels increase as the countdown progresses. Leo nodded, trying not to think about what 3 minutes in a radiation-saturated room would do to him. Bandit couldn't wear a suit, but his natural resistance might be enough for a short exposure. They moved quickly through the station toward the power core access. Pip met them at the entrance, having helped evacuate the last of the hostages from the hub. "Leo, you're really doing this?" Pip asked. "Yeah. You're the bravest person I've ever met." "Or the dumbest," Leo said with a nervous laugh. The power core chamber door opened, and Leo could immediately feel the heat and energy radiating from inside. Warning signs in multiple languages covered the walls. Bandit whined softly, sensing danger, but pressed close to Leo's leg. "Together," Leo said, scratching behind Bandit's ears one more time. "Like always." They entered the chamber. The power core dominated the center of the room, a massive sphere of contained energy that crackled and hummed with barely restrained power. The explosive devices were attached at 3 points around the core, their displays counting down. 6 minutes remaining. The manual override panel was on the far side of the chamber, which meant walking directly past the power core where radiation levels were highest. Leo forced himself to move 1 step at a time, breathing hard inside the suit. Bandit stayed right beside him, his honey badger instinct screaming at him to flee, but his loyalty to Leo stronger than any instinct. They reached the panel. Leo's hands were shaking as he entered the commands Captain Wren had given him. The first sequence stopped the countdown. The second began the containment seal process. The third would lock everything down and prevent the explosives from detonating, but his fingers fumbled. The suit's gloves were thick and made fine motor control difficult. The countdown that had stopped suddenly resumed, now at 4 minutes. No, Leo muttered, trying again. His vision was starting to blur. Whether from tears or radiation exposure, he couldn't tell. Bandit made a worried sound beside him. "I've got this, buddy," Leo said, forcing himself to focus. "Just need to... there." The final sequence completed. The containment seals engaged with a deep, resonant hum. The explosive devices deactivated, their displays going dark. They'd done it. "Time to run," Leo said, turning toward the exit. But the radiation had affected him more than he'd realized. His legs felt weak and the room spun around him. He took 3 steps and stumbled. Bandit was there immediately, pushing against Leo's leg, trying to help him stay upright. I can't. Leo's voice was fading. Then Robert was there, having ignored every order to stay back. He scooped Leo up in his arms, radiation suit and all, and ran. Bandit raced alongside them as they burst out of the power core chamber, just as the emergency doors slammed shut behind them. Medical teams were waiting. They rushed Leo to the station's medical bay, stripping off the radiation suit and scanning him for exposure levels. Robert held his son's hand while Dr. Yenna coordinated with the medical staff. "He received a significant dose," one of the medics reported. "But remarkably, his human physiology is processing it more efficiently than we expected. Combined with immediate treatment, he should make a full recovery." "Should?" Robert demanded. "Will," Dr. Yenna corrected firmly. "He will make a full recovery. Earth biology is more resilient than we gave it credit for." Bandit was examined too and found to have received even less radiation damage than Leo, his honey badger resistance protecting him just as Leo had hoped. The veterinary specialist was amazed that any creature could survive such exposure with so little effect. Leo drifted in and out of consciousness for the next few hours. When he finally woke up fully, he found himself in a medical bed surrounded by people. Robert was there, of course, holding his hand. But so were Captain Wren, Ambassador Trill, Dr. Yenna, and all his friends. "You saved the station," Pip said quietly. "Everyone's talking about it." "Bandit helped," Leo said, his voice hoarse. He looked around. "Where is he?" "Right here, son." Robert moved aside to reveal Bandit curled up on the foot of Leo's bed, where he'd apparently refused to leave despite multiple attempts to move him. Leo smiled and reached out to touch Bandit's fur. His honey badger opened one eye, confirmed Leo was awake, and went back to sleep. Captain Wren stepped forward. Leo, what you did today. There are not words adequate to express our gratitude. You risked your life to save people you barely knew. That's just what humans do, Leo said simply. We help. Not all species share that instinct, Ambassador Trill added. Many would have chosen self-preservation over collective safety. Your actions today have changed how the galaxy views humanity. Over the next few days, as Leo recovered, the full scope of what had happened became clear. The pirate attack had been broadcast throughout the sector by accident, as station communications had been rerouted through public channels during the emergency. Billions of beings across the galaxy had watched a human child and his honey badger face down armed pirates, save hostages, and ultimately sacrifice themselves to protect a station full of strangers. The narrative about humans being dangerous predators shifted. Yes, they were formidable. Yes, they came from a death world, but they used that strength to protect others, not to dominate them. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. Some offered thanks. Some asked questions about Earth and humanity. Some wanted to meet Leo and Bandit. A few species that had been among the most vocal opponents of human contact now changed their position, arguing that the galaxy needed humans more than humans needed the galaxy. The Galactic Council reconvened ahead of schedule. This time, when the holographic projection appeared in Leo's hospital room, Counselor Venn spoke with warmth rather than fear. Leo of Earth, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I am pleased to inform you that humanity's trial period has been concluded early. The Council has voted unanimously to grant humans full membership status. Leo, still recovering but sitting up with Bandit in his lap, smiled. Really? Really, the jellyfish being confirmed. We realized something important. We were so focused on how dangerous you could be that we forgot to consider what you could do with that strength. You showed us that humans don't just survive. You thrive. And you help others thrive too. Ambassador Trill, looking healthier and less stressed than Leo had ever seen him, added his own thoughts. Young Leo, you asked us once why we thought you were scary. I understand now that what scared us wasn't your strength. It was our own weakness. We weren't afraid of what you might do to us. We were afraid that we couldn't do what you do, face danger and choose courage over safety. Everyone's brave in their own way, Leo said. You all face things that would terrify me. We're just brave about different stuff. The council members seem to consider that. Perhaps that is the lesson here, the tree being said. That strength comes in many forms, and true power is knowing when to fight and when to show mercy. After the council session ended, Leo spent the afternoon with his friends. Pip had brought games from their home world. Ori shared snacks from various cultures. Vesh told stories about their aquatic home planet. And Bandit, fully recovered, allowed all of them to pet him, which was his way of showing they were part of his pack now. What will you do now? Pip asked. Will you stay on the station? For a while, Leo said. Dad says we need to complete the cultural exchange program. After that, maybe we'll go home to Earth for a visit, then come back. There's a lot of galaxy to explore. And a lot of people who want to meet you, Ori added. You're kind of famous now. Leo blushed. I didn't do anything special. I just tried to help. That's what makes it special, Vesh said in their bubbling voice. Not everyone tries to help. You did, even when it was dangerous. That evening, as the station's artificial day cycle dimmed to simulate night, Leo stood at the observation window with his father. Below them, the station bustled with activity, people going about their lives because Leo and Bandit had given them the chance to continue living. Are you okay? Robert asked. Really okay? What you went through? Physically and emotionally, that's a lot for anyone, much less a 9-year-old. Leo thought about it. He'd been terrified multiple times. He'd been hurt. He'd made choices that could have gone very wrong. But he'd also made friends, saved lives, and helped bridge a gap between species that had seemed impossible to cross. I'm okay, he said finally. I mean, I'm still scared sometimes. And I have nightmares about the radiation chamber. But I'm also happy. Is that weird? Not weird at all, Robert said, pulling him into a hug. That's called being human. We contain multitudes. Bandit huffed from where he was sprawled on the floor, and both Leo and Robert laughed. Yes, honey badgers contain multitudes too, Leo said, bending down to scratch behind Bandit's ears. As they prepared for bed, Leo thought about everything that had happened since they arrived at Station Haven 7. He'd come here hoping to make friends and learn about alien species. He'd ended up changing how an entire galaxy viewed his species. But the most important thing, the thing that made it all worthwhile, was simpler than that. He'd helped people. He'd been brave when it mattered. And he'd proven that a 9-year-old boy and his honey badger could make a difference. Bandit curled up at the foot of Leo's bed, his usual spot now. As Leo drifted off to sleep, he could hear the station's sounds around him. People talking, laughing, living their lives without fear. Ambassador Trill's final message of the day came through on Robert's tablet. The Galactic Council had commissioned a statue to be placed in the station's central plaza. It would depict a human child and his honey badger, walking together, symbolizing humanity's entry into the galactic community. The inscription would read, "They walked together not to inspire fear, but because neither would ever leave the other behind." In their loyalty, the galaxy learned what true strength means. Leo smiled in his sleep, one hand hanging off the bed to rest on Bandit's back. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new friends, and new chances to explore the galaxy. But tonight he was just a boy and his honey badger, exactly where they belonged. Together. The galaxy had trembled in terror when they first arrived. Now it trembled with hope, understanding finally that humans and their companions from Earth brought not conquest but protection, not domination but cooperation, not fear but friendship. And somewhere across the stars on a blue planet called Earth, other humans were preparing for their own journeys into space. They would come with their own companions, their own stories, their own ways of showing the galaxy what humanity meant. But Leo and Bandit had been first. And in being first, they had set the standard for what it meant to be human among the stars. Strong enough to face any danger, brave enough to help anyone in need, and loyal enough to never abandon those who needed them. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Leo thought as he finally fell completely asleep, was exactly the point.